We do require that you file an annual hazardous material report online. If you have done so in the past, it is as simple as a couple of clicks because that information is preserved for you. And when you log on, you'll simply see it and verify it. And we'll walk through that now. The other piece of this is the facility information or report or site plan. This is a required and important piece of this process. And so I want to make sure folks are clear on what that is and isn't. And also that goes through the same process. It's just a couple of buttons to get your plan uploaded as part of your annual report. There are some specific details that we want to see on this, and it just ties into where your risks are. Most importantly, where do you have the hazardous materials on your site so that we know where to address our technical assistance and our compliance attention? Where do you have storm drains or drainage areas or dry wells, places where a spill can get out and get into the environment or into the subsurface on your property? And then where are the tools you have to control those spills? Where do you have your spill kits or shutoff valves if you've got those installed in your drainage system? So those important details should be captured here, and it doesn't need to be fancy. You can see a hand-drawn map is just fine. It has all the details we need. Another, simple computer-generated box diagram. If you've got the original engineering plans for your site and want to make a couple notes on that, that's fine too. And if you're unsure, again, give us a call and we can help walk through what we need for this. But I encourage everybody to check your reporting record first, because we almost certainly already have something on file for your site, and you can take a look at that when you look at your annual reporting. I have our resources in.
Oh. We have a question here in the chat.
Okay, yes.
But just before we move on, I wanted to make sure it got seen. It says, if a material has been characterized as hazardous but is exempt because we recycle it, does it need to be identified on the site plan?
Great question. Yes, the short answer is yes. So the recycling exemption is a component of the state's hazardous waste rules. For our purposes, from groundwater protection, whether something is a waste that's going to be recycled or whether something is a raw product or a hazardous waste, that material on the site is what creates the risk. And so we want to make sure while it's pending recycling, we still have containment and we still have that material identified for spill response and control.
I'll add in here as an example. We have quite a few facilities that use used oil as a heating material within their shops. Once that used oil goes into the tank, if you're not showing spillage, getting to the floor, escapement from the building issues, normally we don't worry about that chemical. Versus used antifreezes, used solvent, chemicals that are a higher toxicity and of higher concern, you do need to report those for essentially the highest volume you would have during the year, because they are of concern, could spill even in the short window they're there, and could get into the groundwater potentially.
Yep.
And this is an example of just ask us, exactly what you're doing right now. Ask us and we'll try and clarify. If you're still uncertain, go ahead and report it. Go ahead and put it on your map. You're not gonna, there's no penalty for that. There's no cost to it, nothing. So, if in doubt, go ahead and mention
it. And so I'm going to dive right into our reporting system. Folks can follow along at home on your browser if you've navigated to the groundwater protection site. If not, I'm going to walk through the screens here and make sure this is clear. We've designed this system to be as user-friendly as possible. Again, that doesn't mean we don't hit snags once in a while, but we can get those ironed out, and let us know if you run into something that we're always hitting new stuff and there's room to refine and improve. But this should be just a question of a couple of buttons for you guys who have reported before. And if you are new to this, The setup is pretty painless, and then you've made an investment for future reporting, which will take very little time. So if you're a returning business, you're going to click this button down here, the login and report button, and that'll take you right to a sign-in screen. If you have not reported in the past, you'll click the register button on the top right. But not to worry, if you just click login and report and you find you don't have login, you can always register as a new user when you attempt to log in and get kicked out. So first screen you see is a login screen, just like any other system. Enter your email and your password. You can choose to be remembered or not, up to you. And then in we go. Please check your profile. If you are setting up a new account, you'll go here, but when you log in, double check this My Profile button at the top. You can change your password. You can change contact email or phone numbers. And also importantly, you can change your company info. This is particularly important for new users. We want to make sure that everybody with an email identity accessing the system is connected to the right business. We want to try to keep your information secure and safe, and make sure that only the folks who represent your facility have access to your information for viewing and or editing. So tying each individual registration to the right company is an important check that we have at the front stage of this
Doug,
process.
I'm gonna hop in for a sec. We had a question. I was working on my reporting today. I had my diesel underground storage tanks removed this past February. Should I remove them for this year's report or wait until next year? If you don't have the chemical, you can definitely remove them from this year's report. If you've already signed off and certified your report, it probably will not let you get back in to remove them this year. So you'll want to make a note and just do it next year when that comes up, as an answer to that question from Derek Townsend.
Yep. Thanks, Clay. Yeah, and yeah, that's good news. That's great. That's one more risk to take off the slate. So when you do click on that editing function, a couple of things to highlight. You'll get this drop-down page of options. Any of these items that you see with a red star are required. So this can become a snag for folks down the road. You may get an error message when you try to submit your report that some piece of information, some piece of required information is not present. Double check this user and company detail on your profile. Sometimes it's something simple that's missing. It could be a manager or title, excuse me, that's missing, or a phone number. So double check this and make sure it's complete. That can often resolve some of the snags for filing a certified report. And also point out, everywhere on this website that you see one of these boxes with a question mark icon, that's a help box. So if you're unsure about anything, click on those help boxes, and that'll give you a description of what the field's about and what information we're looking for. And then finally, don't forget to save. Always save. That can be frustrating. So make sure you click on save when you're done, and that'll pop you back out. Another important note is the company name. I mentioned this already, but we have a drop-down list of existing companies in here. So start typing your name and then select the one that's up there. We run into this occasionally as well, where folks type in a name and it's just slightly different from what we have in the reporting history. And that new user ends up being attached to a totally different company and you don't see that previous reporting history. So we want to avoid that if at all possible. So look for your existing company in that drop-down menu and select that. If you're just absolutely sure that you filed in the past, but you just can't find this, get in touch with us. Sometimes that happens, that we'll have a company name that looks one way in corporate records and maybe our fire bureau inspection database, and it's just different than what you use on a day-to-day basis. And so there might not be a match, but please know that your company names are pre-populated and should be in there for you unless you are brand new. So reach out if you need some help with that.
We have a question here.
Yes.
And I'm not sure, maybe you just answered this, but how do we change our email address? Our company updated our emails.
Gotcha. Yep. So if it's just your email address as a user, you'll go into your contact details. If it is something like your company's under new ownership, or you're rebranding, or something where your primary company name is changed, you can see that in the details, but please contact us because these records are managed by company name. If that's changing, please let us know so that we can make sure your records transfer through to the new company, and we keep everything consolidated for you on the reporting side of things. So your company details, I want to highlight again another option here. The site address is also linked to your property records. The site addresses for all of the parcels in the protection areas are preloaded into this system. And this is another area where sometimes we see a hiccup, particularly if there are multiple suites on a site. When you're typing in your company address for a new company, again, this is just for new companies. Existing companies, this should be resolved already, so don't worry about it. If you're a new company, start typing in your address and a drop-down will come up with matching parcels. So please look for that drop-down and select the address from that list so that it ties into the broader records. We can fix that for you. We can help that for you if you run into an issue uploading that, but want folks to be aware that the site address and the company name are both should be preloaded for you, and it should just be a matter of selecting the one that applies.
Hey, Doug, we had a follow-up to
Yep.
that last question about changing emails. Crystal says that edit user doesn't allow for email address updates.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. That's surprising. Maybe we should check in offline after this and see if we can help you navigate that. That's
I think we've had a problem similar to that in the past. Crystal, contact us afterwards, and we need to find out if that's just a problem with you or a problem we've got with the whole system, but we'll take care of that either way.
Thank you. And then also note that on the company details, you can go here. There are lots of different places you can access this, but this is a spot where you can go to check if your site plan is uploaded or not. And you can see what's on file from the company details page as well. Okay, now to the meat of the process. When you click on the annual reports button for your facility, this is what you will see. The two things to highlight here: if you need to change your site plan, you do so here. You can also see the current site plan on this site here as well. But if you need to upload a new one, it's just a couple clicks. Click on the button to choose a file, and that will open an Explorer browser on your computer, and just go to the file location where you've stored your scan or PDF or whatever electronic format you have your site plan, and then click upload, and that will add it to your reporting history. To report your chemical inventory, you're going to click on create and view, or view your report for the current year. The format of this is that each row represents an individual entry. And so if you've reported in the past, when you go to this screen, as you can see for Rebecca's chemical outlet, which is our imaginary reporting entity for these trainings, the 2020 report shows up. So whatever was filed last year shows up here, and you can go through that. before you click the button, or you can click on create view the report, and it will simply duplicate all of that and carry it forward. And then you'll have a chance to edit. So once we've clicked that create and view, it will bring up everything that's on file for last year. If nothing has changed, then no need to worry about this step. If you need to update either a quantity or in the case of our last example, the tanks are gone, so that material is no longer there. So you'll click either edit or remove for this report. For example, if this was going to be those oil tanks, you'd simply click remove here, and that would take it off of your list for the year. When you do click on that edit button, it'll bring up the details for that specific compound. And these gray shaded boxes cannot be edited. So you'll see the chemical name and the regulated category cannot be edited. The reason for that is that all of our regulated materials are already populated in this system. And what we need from you is, the product name, which is simply the name off of the label. For this example, it's Goop B, but it's whatever the manufacturer calls the thing on the label. Whatever, when our inspectors show up, they're going to see on the label of the container to be able to identify it. This is not the chemical identity. This is not anything technical. This could just be Bob's Magic Degreaser. It's whatever's on the label in the simplest terms. And then the CAS number here, the Chemical Abstract Service Number, is the important part. This is like a fingerprint or a social security number for an individual chemical composition. And this is going to be found on your safety data sheet for your materials. We don't need every single CAS number off of every single safety data sheet. The thresholds apply for anything that is 10% or more. And again, if you're looking at something new that you haven't reported before and you need help with this, give us a call. We can help you navigate that. But that 10% threshold is important. So report what you have that's greater than 10%, enter that CAS number, and if it is regulated, these fields here will populate. It'll populate with the chemical name, and it'll populate and show you what regulated category that is, whether it's a hazardous waste, hazardous substance, a petroleum fuel, or a halogenated solvent.
I'll hop in here for a second, Doug. I'm going to reemphasize, do not put every chemical on there. We had a large aerospace corp that we work with annually. When we started into this program, they had a 36-page chemical report. After working with them for several years, when I came into the program about 12 years ago, I sat down with them, we looked at their list of chemicals, and we realized we could turn a 36-page report into about an 8 to 12-page report, depending on the process for each year. That, for many of your sites, that could turn an 8-page report into a 1-page report. So if you have questions on this or you have issues, contact myself, Doug, Dakota, or not Doug, sorry, Corky or Dakota, depending on which one you're in. Fairview, Gresham, contact me. And Portland, if you can't get them, you can contact me as well. Corky and Dakota are your primaries for these questions. We can help you reduce the workload you're doing to create this list if you're actually trying to report too many chemicals. Just as we don't want you spending money to buy things you don't need for our program, we don't want you spending a ridiculous amount of hours making up a giant list if that's not necessary as well.
Yep. Thanks, Clay. One more thing to note on your reporting, again, we have the red asterisks on these fields that are required components. So sometimes folks can get hung up if something's missing on this report. Make sure that we know the quantity, the state, if it's a gas, for example, but would be regulated, well, that's not regulated because of its physical condition, right? Gases aren't going to spill and sink into the ground. So we don't cover those in the program. So so make sure we've got all of these required fields populated. And then again, always save, always save. And once you've invested the time in that report, you won't have to do that again for new chemicals. If you've got something brand new, you're going to click Add New, and you'll find the same screen. It just won't already have the details in it. So again, the product name and the CAS number are the two most important. And if you need help identifying what those are for a specific substance, just give us a call. If you enter the CAS number, you check your safety data sheet and you're absolutely certain that it's correct and nothing happens in these gray boxes, well, then it's not regulated. We stand by the data we have in the system. I will note we have a recent update. Our reportable materials are based on the federal listing of hazardous materials in the list of lists, and so-called PFAS, or perfluoroalkyl substances, were added to that federal list last year. So for this reporting year, there are about 200 new compounds that are in that family that will show up. Because this is also new at the federal level, we expect that folks are still learning about that requirement, and that trickles all the way out to your suppliers. So if you're uncertain, please check with us, and please do follow up with your chemical suppliers to make sure you have the most current safety data sheets. These new PFAS materials are in the hazardous substances category, so the reporting threshold for those is 50 gallons. But other than that, that's the big new wrinkle for the list this year. And again, all of those CAS numbers are loaded into the system. So on your end, it should be no change. Simply type the CAS number from your safety data sheet, and it will populate. But again, very important that you have the most current safety data sheets from your suppliers. So it's worth reminding them next time you have a check-in or a reorder to ask them to get you the most current versions of those sheets for whatever supplies you have coming onto your site.
And remember what Doug just said is if you type in that CAS number and the chemical name does not populate, if it just stares it back at you blankly, that means it's not on the list. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, and again, this is also a drop-down menu. So as you're typing the CAS number, you'll start to see options. If you just type a 1 in here, of course, you know, a few hundred things are going to pop up, but type a couple more digits and it should narrow it down to the options. All right, so thanks for bearing with us. The light at the end of the tunnel is here. Once you have everything new added and you have your quantities and details for your carry forwards edited and current, click the certify that this report is complete and accurate, and that's it. If you get an error message when you click that button on certification, it is almost certainly going to be that one of those required fields, like a phone number or a title or unit of measure or something, is incomplete. It'll direct you to what that is. So circle back and make sure all those fields with the red asterisks are populated, and you should be good to go. You can always, if you get an error message, get in touch with us too, if that doesn't fix things for you, and we can help figure that out. This is a man-made system, and man-made systems sometimes run into snags unexpectedly. So whatever it is, we can help you navigate it. But please don't bang your head against the screen. We have resources here to help out. So please reach out and we will help you get that resolved. And here's how to find us. You can contact Corky wherever you are, regardless of jurisdiction, for technical assistance. If you're in Portland, you can give me a call, or as Clay mentioned, you know, we're all still working remotely most of the time. So I encourage you to send an email to the groundwater protection inbox, and then I, or with any luck, support staff can pick that up and help you out promptly. These contacts are also on the groundwater protection reporting site as well. In Gresham and Fairview, you can contact Clay or Miguel, and we've got emails and phone numbers there. And with that, I am done talking.